I could have put crooked Hillary
I
in
respected
jail.
that you didn't, because what you said was it would be bad for the country.
No, I couldn't even imagine. You have, more importantly, the wife of the President of the United States of America going into jail. And if you ever saw when I'd say something about her, they'd all say, I didn't say it. I never said it. They say, lock her up, lock her up. And I'd always go, take it easy, just relax. We're going to win this thing. Take it easy, take it easy. And I'm telling you, I kept it down, just the opposite. Now they say, oh, Trump wanted to put her in jail. No, I saved her from going to jail.
It doesn't mean that Hillary would have been a good choice either. She was a terrible choice. She's a corrupt politician, one of the most unlikable people that's ever run for office. They were trying to get people to be supporting her just because she's a woman. This is going to be her history. Women, ladies, I stand with her. So there's all these women that have this blind allegiance towards this career politician, completely full of shit. She's been full of shit for.
Two of the most outspoken voices in politics and media come together, boldly challenging a powerful figure most considered unassailable. Joe Rogan and Donald Trump deliver a sharp, non-stop critique of Hillary Clinton, cutting through the polished image. They point out the cracks underneath. No filter, no holding back, just direct takes on controversies, mistakes, and missed chances. This isn't just criticism, it's a more profound look at a legacy that turns out to be far more complicated than it seems.
And I don't want Hillary Clinton to win. I think she's ridiculously awful too.
I think a lot of people really disliked Hillary.
They should. She got a shitload of money from banks. She's completely full of shit. She didn't like gay marriage till 2013. She didn't agree with gay marriage till 2013. Like, what are you, a dinosaur?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you even care? Because she's not real. She didn't care. She just was doing what she thought would support her position politically.
Joe Rogan and President Donald Trump going after Hillary Clinton turns into the kind of political takedown where subtlety completely disappears. Rogan doesn't handle it like a careful talk show host with safe, pre-planned questions. He approaches it more like a full-on fight where the other side isn't ready for the hits coming. He comes in with sharp comparisons, hard-hitting logic, and those slightly amused observations that make even loyal supporters pause for a second. Rogan has a way of taking a topic, opening it up, and laying everything out without any sugarcoating. In his hands, Hillary's political career starts to look like a long list of stumbles, missteps, and PR moments that feel almost too much, like something even a sitcom writer would tone down.
Yeah, she really did say that.
Yeah, she really did say that after she just got done Gaddafi and then laughed about it.
We came, we saw, he died.
We came, we saw, he died. The fact that any human being would ever do that. By the way he died, that's some dark.
I ask a simple question. She's been doing this for 30 years. Why the hell didn't you do it over the last 15, 20 years? You were very much involved. Excuse me, my turn. You were very much involved in every aspect of this country, and you do have experience. I'd say the one thing you have over me is experience, but it's bad experience because what you've done has turned out badly. For 30 years, you've been in a position to help, and if you say that I use steel or I use something else, make it impossible for me to do that. I wouldn't mind.
If you're enjoying the video, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. And then there's Donald Trump, but someone who roasts like it's his second job. Trump doesn't go for careful precision. Where Rogan breaks things down, Trump comes in loud and explosive. He doesn't just bring up Hillary's 2016 loss, he turns it into a full-on spectacle, comparing her to a system stuck in safe mode, running the same outdated programs. Every decision, every strategy, every attempt to stay relevant becomes fresh fuel for his non-stop attacks. And in classic Trump fashion, he even flips it into a brag, suggesting Hillary's biggest political moment might be losing to him and making it look like it belonged on an Olympic podium.
One of the loopholes he took advantage of when he claimed $1 billion loss that enabled him to avoid paying taxes.
Did you use that $916 million loss to avoid paying personal federal income taxes?
Of course I do. And so do all of her donors, or most of her donors. I know many of her donors. I pay tremendous numbers of taxes. I absolutely used it. And so did Warren Buffett, and so did George Soros, and so did many of the other people that Hillary is getting money from. She complains that Donald Trump took advantage of the tax code. Why didn't she change it? Why didn't you change it when you were a senator? The reason you didn't is that all your friends take the same advantage that I do. And I do. You have provisions in the tax code that frankly we could change, but you wouldn't change it because all of these people give you the money so you can take negative ads on Donald Trump.
Rogan focuses on her credibility, describing her shifting public positions as less like real growth and more like a GPS that keeps recalculating. He brings up the email controversy, framing it as the kind of mistake you'd expect from someone treating the delete button like a security plan. He also takes aim at her carefully crafted, relatable image, pointing out how those moments often feel overly rehearsed, like they were tested in a corporate lab before going public. When she tries to connect with everyday Americans, Rogan suggests it comes off less like genuine empathy and more like a polished campaign that never really stepped outside the political bubble.
I'm sure the Clintons were there at some point.
Maybe Bill.
Bill is so nice.
I went one time. Was he?
He's so nice. Like when I met
charming.
He is, and he's actually still kind of good looking. Like even for an older dude. Yeah, why not? He's still so good looking, and she's just so miserable.
Well, she's publicly humiliated, and she thought that her big retribution would become president.
Trump treats it like one long victory lap, talking about the debates as if they were one-sided games from start to finish. He goes back to election night, replaying it in his own way as the much-talked-about blue wall fell apart. He also criticizes her post-election book tours and media appearances, portraying them as prolonged efforts to clarify the reasons for her defeat. To Trump, Hillary isn't just a former opponent, she becomes a lasting example of what can happen when confidence runs into the reality of an election, leaving big ambitions falling short.
Can fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact checking, so I expect we'll have millions more fact checking because, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Rogan goes after Hillary's record, from her time in the Senate to her role as Secretary of State, laying out decisions he argues didn't age well. He doesn't just mention Benghazi, he breaks it down as a moment that, for many critics, came to represent questions about judgment and leadership. He also points to her paid speeches to Wall Street, highlighting what he frames as a gap between public messaging and private audiences. Rogan's approach involves guiding the audience through his points in a manner that encourages agreement, followed by delivering a remark that introduces a touch of humor to the overall discussion. Trump, meanwhile, doubles down on her image. He paints her as a symbol of the political establishment, a longtime figure who talks about change but, in his view, delivers more of the same. He mocks her campaign slogans, turning them into parodies, and mixes in personal jabs along the way. But everything circles back to the same point he keeps repeating. She lost to him, and he delivers it like a line the crowd never becomes tired of hearing.
She deleted 33,000 emails.
I provided all my emails that could possibly be work-related.
Several thousand work-related emails that were not among the group of 30,000 emails returned by Secretary Clinton.
When they rigged the DNC, they rigged the primaries so that Bernie Sanders was going to lose.
I thought using one device would be simpler.
She also used numerous mobile devices to send and to read email.
She had her people into the DNC way in advance. That Donna Brazile book about it is mind-blowing.
Rogan goes after Hillary's media style, describing it as so rehearsed and tightly managed that any real spontaneity almost feels impossible. He points to some of her more awkward campaign moments, from stiff appearances on stage to speeches that sound like they were put together by a whole committee. Even her attempts to seem modern and relatable, he argues, sometimes backfire, turning into viral moments that spread faster than any campaign message. What Rogan does well is frame these not as one-off slip-ups, but as signs of a bigger disconnect between her and the public. Trump, by contrast, is not attempting to deconstruct or dismantle, rather, he is there to perform and entertain. His style is direct and loud, built to hit hard rather than be subtle. He keeps coming back to the same point, despite her long career, strong connections, and major resources, she still lost to him. For Trump, that's both a punchline and his main argument. One of Rogan's sharper takes is comparing her political image to a brand that never updates itself. Trying to align with newer movements while still holding on to old-school strategies, he argues, left her stuck in the middle, failing to fully connect with either side. It's a point he delivers with a mix of analysis and dry humor.
If you watch the conversation between James Comey,
110 emails in 52 email chains have been determined by the owning agency to contain classified information.
When James Comey testified about what he did and what they found with the Hillary Clinton emails, and then her version of it.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material.
She's just a straight lie.
Trump's segment is pure showmanship. He's not trying to teach. He's there to entertain and dominate. Every line flexes power. Every insult reminds the audience that he still holds the championship from their political showdown. He mocks her high-profile allies, pointing out how their endorsements often backfired. Despite the overwhelming support from the media, Hollywood, and the Democratic machine, he emphasizes her defeat. For Trump, it's one of modern politics' biggest punchlines, delivered with the timing of a seasoned stand-up who knows the crowd is hanging on every word. Rogan closes his portion by noting that Hillary's relevance today comes more from punchlines than policy, observing with dry amusement a decades-long refusal to read the room. Trump ends by framing her as the ultimate what could have been story, though in his telling it's really a what never should have been. He unequivocally establishes his superiority.
November 5th will be the most important day, in my opinion, in the history of our country. Because if our country goes the wrong way with this election, I think this country is doomed.
What do you think your biggest challenge is with being elected?
Well, they've weaponized government. They've tried that one, and that drove me up. They're vicious people. These are vicious people. I could have done that to Hillary Clinton. What she did was so bad. She got a subpoena from the United States Congress, and she destroyed everything. You go to jail for that for years. And if you did it as a private person, you go to jail. But she destroyed everything. And I said, wouldn't it be terrible to have the wife of the President of the United States, a former President of the United States, being put in prison? And I meant that. I think it would be terrible.
If there's one thing Rogan and Trump agree on in their roasts, it's that Hillary Clinton's legacy isn't about breaking new ground. It's about stumbling over the path she tried to clear. This isn't just humor. It's a full-on political takedown, where Rogan's sharp analysis meets Trump's explosive style, leaving their target nearly unrecognizable. For viewers, it's a reminder, when these two focus on the same person, there's no recovery, just the echo of laughter and a slow fade into irrelevance. They portray Hillary's political brand as a vintage wine no one actually drinks, kept on display for show. Trump leans in with relentless confidence, turning her long-winded talking points into overinflated balloons ready to pop. Together, they peel back decades of political spin like old wallpaper, exposing a foundation that's been cracking since the 90s. By the end, what remains isn't a stateswoman's legacy, just the bare frame of a career that never kept up with the times.
This one is wild. This is Hillary Clinton in like 2008, and Hillary Clinton saying some wild MAGA type shit.
Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked, they're gone. If they...
She's a Republican.
If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes. And you have to try to learn English. And you have to wait in line.
You have to wait in line. You have to wait in line. It's
You couldn't believe that.
Illusion.
They tear apart Hillary's public persona, exposing every failed rebrand to the public. Hillary the reformer, Hillary the progressive, Hillary the champion of women. All of it comes off flat, like a campaign ad nobody asked for. Rogan's take frames her as a Netflix series renewed out of habit, not merit, while Trump paints her as the political equivalent of Windows Vista, full of promises but riddled with crashes and pop-up failures at the worst possible moments. The hits keep coming, hammering her record like a punching bag that should have been retired years ago. Rogan calls her so-called evolution nothing more than costume changes, swapping power suits for relatable grandma cardigans without changing the script. Trump doubles down, casting her as the eternal understudy in a political play where she never really takes center stage. And just when it seems like the material should run dry, they both strike hard, turning her entire career into a cautionary tale of overpromised potential and constant underdelivery.
It doesn't mean that Hillary would have been a good choice either. She was a terrible choice. She's a corrupt politician, one of the most unlikable people that's ever run for office.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
They were trying to get people supporting her just because she's a woman. This is going to be her history. You know, women, ladies, I stand with her. So there's all these women that have this blind allegiance towards this career politician. It's completely full of shit. She's been full of shit forever.
Rogan frames her as the politician who aimed to be a revolutionary but ended up more like a trivia question. Trump drives it home, portraying her as the ultimate example of ambition without real connection. An empire built on sand, ready to collapse. You can almost hear it crumbling, brick by brick. Decades of carefully managed influence fall apart into a pile of forgettable sound bites. This isn't just a roast, it's a total dismantling of her political myth, leaving only the hollow echo of what could have been. By the time they're done, Hillary's image isn't just bruised, it's reduced to political dust, scattered by two unstoppable voices with zero intention of letting her rebuild.
On the day of the election, I think they had some crazy odds of Hillary winning. It was like in the 90%. We watched it from the Comedy Store. We did a podcast from the Comedy Store called the End of the World podcast. What was most fascinating was the podcast was over and then we all went to the bar, and on the television, Jake Tapper was just seriously bummed out, talking about Trump winning all these different states.
And Anderson, it is hard to think of a political comeback that is actually more significant than this one. I'm tempted to say Richard Nixon, but that really falls short of what Donald Trump has achieved.
I think for a lot of people, that was the end of trust in mainstream media. That was the first nail in the coffin. That was to be like, you were so wrong.
As the dust settles, the stage is empty, the lights dim, and the silence speaks louder than any campaign slogan she ever coined. Hillary Clinton's political brand now feels like a museum piece no one asked for. Shiny on the outside, hollow within. A relic from a time when political elites thought charisma was optional and accountability a punchline. Its only protection is the glass of media nostalgia. But time has a way of dulling even the brightest shine. Eventually, the cracks become impossible to ignore. The once thunderous applause has faded into an awkward hush, replaced by the sobering truth that her inevitability was never real. Her legacy isn't defined by victories, but by the long shadow of missed opportunities and battles lost in plain sight. As Rogan's and Trump's roasts echoed louder than any of her speeches ever did, it became clear this wasn't just the end of a chapter. It was the final page, slammed shut with such force that the dust still hangs in the air.